with some marks that you can make with the paintbrush. Like I said, wide brush, skinny brush, all in the same paintbrush. If I don't press it all, I can make really, really tiny lines with this paintbrush. So this is just with the very, very corner of the paintbrush. So I want you to practice with your paint and your paintbrush, making these kinds of marks. How many different sizes of marks can you make using the paintbrush itself? When we control the water like this is called dry brushing, and it is how we will put finishing details on an actual painting. Right now, this is just me practicing making marks with the paintbrush, which is good for me to do. So when you go to practice today, I want you to do all the same things that I'm showing you right now. I want you to practice making marks with your paintbrush, noticing, right, I'm starting to run out of paint, and so my paintbrush marks are getting lighter and lighter because I haven't gone back to the red to get more paint. Okay, so now I will need water and a color, and I'm going to do something called, so this is just a wash. I'm going to move to the next square now, and I'm going to need water and a color. So I'm going to go back to my same blue, and I'm going to do something called a graded wash. So I want my wash to start dark. These squares are maybe a little big. You guys could make more squares that are smaller. I'm going to start dark. And now instead of going to get more paint, I'm going to just grab a little drip of water. And I'm going to pull down a couple, like 3 strokes. Now I'm going to get a little bit more water. Pull down 3. Just trying to help some of this color drift here. And this is called a graded wash. So you notice that it goes from dark to light on my sheet of paper. And I can kind of even this out by going back over the top of it with my paintbrush. That's a useful technique. So you can see that I've changed basically the value of the paint. I have made it get lighter by adding water, and that's how we make lighter colors in watercolor, as we add water. Another thing that we can do is I can do this same technique, but I can change the color on the opposite side. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And I want you guys to practice doing that. So I'm going to take a little bit of a second color. Again, I'm going to add water to it. And this paint that ends up here in your paint tray is always good paint. Like, there's no reason for you to clean that paint off. I'm going to go side to side this time. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my paper this way. And I'm going to start here with blue. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little water to my blue. So I'm practicing the graded wash technique again. A graded wash technique is how we will make things like a sky. It's how we'll work on making those portraits that I sent you in your supply kit. And now I'm going to make sure that this is completely cleared off. I'm going to squeeze my paintbrush dry on my little cloth, and I'm going to grab some of this extra water so that it fades to nothing, almost at the edge of my box. Now I'm going to do the opposite thing. So I'm going to grab my red, and I'm going to start here. Oops, I don't have very much paint. If you go to paint and you notice that your paint isn't as vibrant as you want it to be, more paint, right? More licks off the paint pile. And now I am going to grab some water, and you'll see that my colors start to mix together. Watercolor is translucent, which means that one color will show through a second color. and they will mix and blend when they are wet. So you can see I have mixed my two colors together, my red and my blue, so that they fade into each other and sort of make a bit of a purpley color in between, because red and blue make purple. And that is called a 2-color graded wash. So this is a regular graded wash. This is a 2-color graded wash. Next, we're going to play with the property of color where the colors mix and blend with each other in ways that are sort of sometimes surprising. So I'm going to just take water. So I know it's hard for you guys to see this, but I'm just kind of making a kind of crazy line across this box just with water. And I'm going to use my same 2 colors that I've been using. I'm using my blue, and I'm going to paint down here. You can use whatever colors you want. And notice when I bump the water that my blue paint moves without me moving it. Right? That's not me moving the blue paint. That's me bumping. I bumped my little puddle of water in the middle with the blue paint. So you can see the difference in paint behavior. Water versus no water. You can also see that I have this drip of water down here. Water and paint. And I'm going to tip my paper so that my paint moves up and away. I am now going to go back to my other color, and I'm going to do the same thing from the other side, and I'm going to let the paint mix with the paint. This is called a wet into wet wash. So notice how that paint kind of blooms and moves. And it's not anything that I'm doing. This is just the watercolor paint playing around with each other in that puddle. So I can move it on purpose. So I can pick my sheet up here, and I can let this paint kind of run and pool. You'll see I'm starting to make more purple as I do that. I'm also seeing where I have some dry sections on my paper. I'm just going to go ahead and blend those colors together a little bit more. If the color is too wet, I can squeeze my paintbrush out so that it's dry, and I can suck up some of that extra puddly part. But you can see that my paint has blended into itself. That is called a wet into wet wash. We will actually play with this capability of watercolor in our first 2 projects together. And we will start the first one later this week. So you do want to make sure that you practice this and can have your paint kind of do its thing all on its own without any problems. Let's see. So those are some techniques. I have an extra square. Oh, here's one other thing I can show you. So remember I said that watercolor was transparent. So I can take a second color up here, and this is called glazing. So when I take one color and put it over a second color, and you can see how it changes the first color. So very often in a painting, that is how we can change the color of something. It's how we can adjust colors, and the way the colors look is to put 2 layers of watercolor on our sheet. Go ahead and practice. Probably most of you will need to practice either the 2-color wash or the wet into wet wash again, or I could even divide this in half, and I could try one of both a second time so that you have practice making these kinds of washes. Have fun practicing with your watercolor, and we will talk more about our project on Wednesday. So sometime today or tomorrow, you can post a picture of your practice. Have fun.